5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome! My name is Troy Christopher Plota, and this is the world of motion art. Okay, so let's get started. This series is dedicated to the exciting new world of motion art, including all the various shooting techniques and apps that go into making these amazing images. Okay, so this first episode is an overview of motion art with a little bit of information on my team and I, how we got here, and why we've decided to dedicate our careers to this movement. So if you're curious about looping images or just want to learn a few tips on how to get more engagement on your social media accounts, then this series is for you. I've been working as a professional photographer and creative director for over 25 years and have always loved combining photography and technology and pushing the limits to seeing what's next. In this interactive series, I'll be exploring the many ways you can expand and present your work beyond the traditional photograph or video. So right now, if you're thinking to yourself, what the is motion art? Well, here it is in a nutshell. Motion art is a digital image that sits between a traditional still photo and a traditional video. Now, traditional video generally has a start and a stop point. With most motion art images, they just keep going. And you can't generally tell where the start is and where the end is. It just keeps rolling, so it creates this really amazing immersive content that is really eye-catching and really gets a lot of attention. So here are the basic motion art categories. We have video loops, video overlays, morphs and multi-morphs, motion graphics, augmented reality, time lapses, cinemagraphs, and of course plotographs, with more techniques coming in every day. Personally, I've always been intrigued by the creative process. I first started shooting and working in the darkroom when I was 13 years old. Since then, my career as a professional photographer and creative director has brought me around the world to meet and photograph some of the most interesting people and locations on the planet. The initial focus of my career was in fashion, advertising, and celebrity portraits, and lots of other things, of course, too, within that. But then as I kept going and technology kept building, I kept kind of like growing my repertoire as far as what I was working on, because photography for me got a little bit boring, like just straight photography. So combining with motion graphics, video overlays, and animating photos is really intriguing to me. Since then, my work has been published in hundreds of publications, including Vanity Fair, GQ, National Geographic, billboards in Times Square, and around the world. My team and I have always worked hard to push the limits and create images that are outside the ordinary. That's where motion art comes in. My first intro into looping content was back in the 90s when GIFs started to become popular. GIFs were first introduced in the 80s, but not many people had computers yet in the 80s. So the 90s were kind of like the initial heyday of when GIFs first came to market. Although there still weren't many professional uses for GIFs back then, it helped my website kind of stand out. Once again, whenever you post something kind of in a looping way, or obviously you start bringing life to something, it just gets a lot more attention. Then the 2000s rolled in. Then came simple animations and morphs that sometimes took up to several days per image to animate. Most of the time, it took multiple complex applications to get the job done, and the results were low res and nowhere near 4K. In the late 2000s, video-based cinemagraphs started to get popular, but the commercial applications were limited because there still weren't many places to post them without complex code injection. In 2012, my team and I opened a second studio dedicated to creating immersive 3D content for VR and AR that ultimately led to an invite for me to speak at a TEDx event. My TED Talk is entitled The Future of Photography. I'll post a link below if you're interested in watching it. Since then, our main focus has been on alternative processes in photography and digital design. That ultimately led to the creation of our own suite of apps dedicated to the various motion art techniques. This series is my own personal side project, so don't worry, it won't be all a one-sided Plotaverse perspective. I'm going to be interviewing the world's top artists, top image animators, and even other app developers to talk about what the future holds for this exciting new creative content. Motion art is finally getting the attention it deserves from the brands and agencies, especially now that many of the world's top artists, celebrities, and influencers are posting these eye-catching images. The 6-second video is proving to be a really effective way to present content, especially for mobile devices that a lot of times you really have to hit them hard and fast. And that's where motion art comes in, because it's such a great way to show these images and get your message across fast. It's only been a couple years now since most social platforms are looping MP4s and looping videos. And this is really important because even just a few years ago, this wasn't the case. So now it's like pretty standard within the industry. So now this whole world of motion art's coming up. So we're really excited to present all the different ways and just literally open up to the masses. And if you have any comments or questions you want, leave comments below the video, and we really want to make this an interactive series. So if you have any thoughts, you have any additional information, we're really glad to hear it, and we're really glad to put it out there. This industry is growing so fast, and there's so much incorrect data out there. It's kind of like the Wild West. So I'm going to set the record straight on some terms and technical processes, including the distinct differences between the photo-based photographs and the video-based cinemagraphs, and why it's important to know the difference when shooting and delivering your images, including the proper file formats and video resolutions. We will also be going on set with some of the world's top image creators and digital artists to show you what inspires them and deliver some valuable tips and tricks along the way. So if you're a digital artist, photographer, videographer, brand, agency, or you just like to create cool stuff, there'll be a lot of great technical data here for you to really make sure you get it right. So if somebody asks you to deliver a certain file format or an image, or they want to post something, whether it's in large format or small format, we're going to give you all the technical data that you're going to need to get the job delivered. Okay, so make sure to follow this channel and join me for next week's episode entitled The History of Motion Art. Until then, Troy Christopher Plota here. Stay inspired and keep pushing your creative limits.